Hi everybody, and welcome to video number 18 in my EFT series. And this video I decided to do about how to cope with depression, and I'm going to share with you strategies which I wrote some 15 years ago. And these strategies are about helping you recognize what depression is and help you overcome it. And I've written also strategies on helping people with illness, and my story is that I am suffering from some kind of mystery illness and the doctors don't really know what it is, and for many years I felt badly frustrated that there was nothing the doctors can do to help me. And so I was kind of thinking, well, okay, the doctors can't help me, they don't have the time to listen to me, I need to help myself. And so I did try these strategies to help myself, and I helped many other people with that. And the irony of it was that often I would actually ignore or sabotage these strategies which I wrote, and people would say to me, well, look, you wrote all these strategies, yet you're not following them. And that's very true. When I was very ill, I would be too not bothered, too tired, too unwell to want to follow any of these strategies. But I would always kind of say to people, well, yeah, maybe I'm not following it, or I'm not following the strategies on a conscious level, but on the subconscious level it's still there. And the fact that it's been helping so many other people, it's just, on the subconscious level it's working. And this is basically what EFT is about. It's helping you to clear all the stresses, all the anxieties, panic attacks, you name it, on the subconscious level. So it's on the level you are not even kind of aware of. And so yeah, so basically what's happening is all these kind of, as I said, all these kind of stresses, worries, anxieties which are in us and which we are actually pushing away from us, if you tap, they will help to go, and they will be replaced by more loving responses. And my mum said to me the other day, she's been watching my last video, and she said, oh, I enjoyed watching your video, but I need something which is much quicker. When I'm in some kind of crisis, I need something much more simple for you, so it can help me. And so I would say, Mum, if you're watching, if you are in some kind of crisis, and of course in a crisis you wouldn't be able to watch this video and I wasn't following my strategies, all you need to do is just to tap on the crisis, because the subconscious mind will know what the crisis is. Even if we don't know what the crisis is about, even if we don't know what the origins of this crisis are, if we just tap, even though I'm just in the middle of this crisis and I don't know what to do, I'm all on my own, I just feel so frustrated, I love and accept myself anyway. And you repeat this phrase 3 times. Even though I'm in this crisis, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I'm in the middle of this crisis, I love and accept myself anyway. And then you will just continue tapping this crisis, and stay tuned in, because very often what we do is we don't want to know. We are running away from that, from all the issues which we've got, and then we do have a crisis because it becomes so overwhelming we can't run away anymore. And that actually is the kind of connection I used to make with my illness. I've been ill for many years, for decades, and I didn't want to occupy myself with this illness. It was just too painful, too difficult. I didn't want to know, so I tried to live my life no matter what. I was tired, I still pretended I was living a life, till one day the illness got too bad and there I was basically bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed, and then as much as I didn't want to occupy myself with all my issues, as much as I couldn't stand it, didn't want to accept it at that time, I had to, or not I had to, but if I didn't accept it then, I don't think I would be here today. So I had to learn to accept all these issues, and this is what the EFT is basically about, helping you to learn to accept, and once you accept that, then the rest will come by itself. So I will share about me writing these stories, well, strategies to overcome depression. And it's basically a interview which I have made with somebody, and I will change the name of that person to protect their identity. And it's an interview with me and this person at Beachy Head. Now, Beachy Head is a very beautiful place. When my sons were younger, I used to walk along the cliffs at Beachy Head with them every school holidays. We would go on a bus, and then along the coast we would walk. It was so pretty. I always loved that. I always looked forward to the next holidays, because we would always walk in this beautiful, that is a lighthouse at Beachy Head. And I took one of my friends there once, and she's a very good artist, and she drew a lovely picture of the lighthouse at Beachy Head. But why I'm talking about this is it's also, as well as a beautiful place, it's a place where a lot of people have sadly lost their lives because they jumped off Beachy Head and they wanted to end their life. And see, I actually myself made some pictures, but not as good as my friend, but I still enjoyed kind of drawing these pictures. You probably won't see it very much because I had to make it into a very small picture, and I don't know, I've lost the original pictures. So yeah, so it's an interview with somebody who used to suffer from depression, but later when they've overcome it, they went to actually help to with people, help to talk to people who are feeling suicidal, because they were using their own experience of going through depression, helping others. And yeah, so I will read along these strategies, and as I read along, I will do a little bit of tapping demonstration for each one of the strategies, so that you are able to help yourself. And if you've got this issue, you tap on them so that it can help you with your own depression. And of course, when I wrote these strategies some 15 years ago, I didn't know about EFT in those days. And even today when I read the strategies, I know there are things I would probably want to change, because I sometimes say in the strategies, oh, you should. But today it's not a word I like using, and also I don't like to think of myself as giving advice, because if you give advice, it's like, oh, I'm better than you, and that actually is not the case. We are all equal, and I look at me, more today is walking along somebody who is distressed and helping them and being there for them, not to trying to get them out of it, but actually walk along them and help them share, sort of spread the burden. And because in my last video I done a video on mental health first aid, and one of the things I'm talking there about is that sometimes when we are helping somebody who is suffering from depression, we will say to them, oh, cheer up, things will improve, pull yourself out of it. And actually that is not so helpful for the person who is going through those kind of difficult times. And very often it does kind of happen that when we are trying to help somebody else, what we actually don't like doing is we don't like looking at their distress, because their distress will remind us of our own distress, and we are all very good at pushing that distress to one side. And if we see somebody who is distressed, straight away that will start kicking all our stress in our bodies. We won't like it, and we would like to silence them, shut them up, but actually that's not helpful. So I would say, if you are supporting somebody who is distressed, the best way to help them is to say, you know, I'm here for you and I'm happy to share in your distress. You can tell me whatever you want to tell me. And so I will start reading my 7 strategies. So as I said, this has been written 15 years ago, so some of the things are probably out of date, but as I said, I haven't changed it yet, so I will just read it as if it was 15 years ago. And so recently I visited Beachy Head, which is one of the most beautiful places in England, where I met a man who I shall call Charles. These cliffs, reaching up to 162 meters, can also become a very sad place. Unfortunately, they have become a favorite place for depressed people to end their lives. But the good news is that the number of people who die at Beachy Head is declining from year to year. Credit for this is likely to be given to a charity of which Charles recently became a volunteer that organizes pickets at Beachy Head. The volunteers try to change people's minds so that they think twice about jumping off the cliffs. Charles told me that he also once suffered from depression and had suicidal thoughts. He is grateful to all those who helped him in his difficult times. So now he wants to repay that service by helping others who are in a similar situation as he once was. It is important to realize that a person suffers from depression. Symptoms manifest themselves by sadness, loss of interest in almost everything, or poor lifestyle. There are a lot of tests on the internet where you can learn what kind of degree or intensity of depression you suffer from. In my article, How to Deal with Problem Seekers, I mentioned that these people do not want to admit that something is wrong in their lives. Now, if these people sought advice, they would have learned how to deal with their anger or rage more constructively. Charles told me that before he was diagnosed with depression, he would never want to admit to himself that he had a mental health problem. He only realized when he had to seek psychiatric emergency. The situation was so bad that it took him 3 years before he started to improve. It was only during therapy that his psychologist drew attention to the fact that during his childhood, other members of his family were dependent on him. Everyone needed him, and therefore he was not able to receive emotional support naturally needed as a child. In addition, the members of his own family sexually abused him. So the first strategy which I've got is, remember that you suffer from depression and seek professional help. In the case of suicidal thoughts, you should seek help urgently. So the tapping on, the first tapping which I'm going to share with you is about your acceptance. And sometimes it is hard for you to accept that actually you suffer from depression. So be kind to yourself and acknowledge that. So you could tap if you find that hard to accept that, there's something wrong with you, that you do suffer from depression. You could tap, even though I find it hard to accept that I suffer from depression, I love and accept myself no matter what. Even though I find acceptance of depression hard, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I find it hard to accept that I suffer from depression, I love and accept myself anyway. So we just tap on acceptance. Actually, I have brought a teddy to help me with that, and I make these teddies to help children to learn to remember the tapping points, and also as a reminder that actually things, tapping can help us, because I often help, often my friends say to me, they've got this issue, they've got that issue, they can't sleep, that and the other, and I say to them, well, you can tap, that can help you. And a lot of these friends are actually people who are EFT therapists themselves, and even I have, often in the past, I would have been forgetting that actually this tapping is here. So these studies, and this is just the last one I've made, or I didn't make the teddy, but I just sewed on these tapping points to remember children and adults about where the tapping points are. So just tap on acceptance. As hard as it can be, I accept myself. I accept that I suffer from depression. 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 It was hard for me as well to accept, because for many, many years these symptoms for me were very physical. I suffered from very poor immunity, and it was hard for me at the beginning to make the link that actually I do suffer from depression, and 90% of physical illnesses will have some emotional element to them. So yeah, acceptance is very important on your journey of recovery, of your journey of healing. So then we discuss the extent to which depression can be classified as an illness. Of course, psychological conditions cannot be caught, like, a virus cannot be, they can't be caught. Aside from some minor exceptions, such as bipolarity, and actually I would even question that today, but that's how I wrote it. Depression cannot be passed through genes. We can, of course, come across cases where family members are predisposed or affected, but the question is more how they learn to cope with difficult situations, often using the same or similar tactics or coping mechanisms as the rest of the family. When we break a leg, we know for certain that it will be kept in plaster for 6 weeks. In case of mental illness, we cannot exactly pinpoint the length of the duration. Charles, while depressed, thought that there was no chance that he would ever get better. He especially could not stand it when he was told by others to pull himself together, and that others in his situation managed it. Today he knows that depression will sooner or later pass. Although Charles used to be desperate, he always believed that light would appear at the end of the tunnel. So my second strategy is, even though you think there is no chance that you will ever improve, everyone eventually overcomes depression in their own time. Keep in mind, therefore, that at the end of the path of suffering, light is sure to appear. So if you do struggle to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and of course it is there, but difficult to see when we are in the depths of depression, just step on things like, there is no help, I can never get better, I will never improve, but I accept myself anyway. I will never improve. There's just no help. There is nothing I can do to get better. So I'm desperate. There's just no help anywhere. So these are just examples. Just experiment with that and use your own words and see, how you feel after each stepping round. In the case of Charles, his illness manifested itself as a result of something that happened like some 30 years ago. The trauma of sexual abuse had caused a feeling of inferiority, feelings of guilt and fear, and when he was little, he could not confer with anyone. Therefore, he learned not to share his feelings with anybody and bottled them up inside him. At work, he was not able to say no when asked to work overtime. Increasingly, he quarreled with his wife at home till he suffered a nervous breakdown. Nowadays, people are in constant pursuit of material values. They want to have more and more. Among his work colleagues, it was always debated who has better car, and comparison was made against those of their neighbors. When somebody in the neighborhood bought an expensive car, he or she started the competition for the best car in the street, and everyone gradually started to own better equipped cars. By that, Charles meant to say that nobody's time to get to know oneself, and that we all try to reach something we do not even know what. We leave ourselves to be ruled by various vices such as alcoholism, cigarettes and drugs, but also seemingly less harmful activities such as spending excessive time working, studying, exercising, watching television, or spending time on the internet. Charles explains that enjoying reading to broaden your horizons is beneficial, but if you read to escape something, it could be apparently harmful. So make time for yourself so you can find out who you are and what you expect from life. Watch yourself so as to discover whether you do not exaggerate certain activities, even those that seem harmless at first glance. So yeah, addictions are often to help us fill in the void so we don't have to think about our feelings, and also, like, if we overeat, that food can represent love to us, the love that we never got, when we were growing up and things like that. So as you are reflecting on this third strategy, just tap on whatever addiction it is you suffer from, whatever it is that you overdo. Perhaps you work excessively, perhaps you overeat, and so on. So, and yeah, if you don't know what it is, just say this addiction, and as I said, the subconscious mind will know. Even if you don't know, just say this addiction. I'm only saying it just on a general level, because we all have different coping mechanisms, different addictions. So if you tap on the addiction, then that will help you to free yourself from that. So this addiction, so whatever it is. I mean, for me, it was always, through most of my life, it was just overworking, studying too hard, and working too hard, so I didn't have to think of my illness. That was my case. So yeah. So Charles always thought that he had a special gift, to be the only family member to get on well with his grandfather. His grandfather did not have an easy childhood when he lost his parents at a very young age. He found it hard to cope with and often lost his temper and shouted at others. Charles's mother suffered a nervous collapse, but Charles helped her to return her purpose in life. When the psychologist asked Charles who was giving him emotional support when he was little, he wasn't sure. He didn't know. The psychologist opened his eyes and guided him on the right path, but before Charles was encouraged to relive his moments when he was sexually abused in childhood. This method of therapy did not suit him at all, and he used to return home with an even worse mood. Therefore, one thing about this I would say today is that, to be a good therapist, you need to be able to know what are your own issues, and if you are not able to separate your own issues from those of your clients, you will actually not be very helpful, and you will be actually harming the client. And I always say, clear your own issues. If you are coming from a place of love, then if you are somebody helping another person, you will not want to force your own ideas, your own agenda. Then you will be best equipped to walk along that person and be there for them. You know, I've got loads of friends who are therapists, and you know, they go and learn one course after another. They're just addicted, you know, to courses, but actually it has a lot to do with their own self of worth, with their own confidence, and you know, there is no way that if you do so many courses that you will become a better therapist. The best way is really to sit, reflect on your own issues, and once you are able to do that, then you won't be triggered by your client. And this is actually what kept happening to Charles. The therapist who was helping him wasn't in, you know, I don't know if it was lady or man, but that therapist wasn't in a very good place themselves, and you know, they kind of forced something on Charles which wasn't really that beneficial or helpful. So the strategy number 4 is you do need professional help, as it would be almost impossible to manage everything on your own, but you need to choose kind of the appropriate form. If you feel worse after therapy, it is necessary to find something new and continue with it, because problems are usually very complex and need longer time to be solved. The more complex your issues are, the more patient you will need to be with, you know, finding help. But EFT actually is much faster than traditional counseling or than traditional psychology and everything else. So that was me drawing a picture on beachy hat as the sun was shining. As a result of his abuse in childhood, Charles learned to back away from everything and try to satisfy everyone without letting others know how he felt himself. He was never able to tell his abusers no, and was too scared to talk to his parents about his incident of sexual abuse. Whenever sex scene appeared on television, his parents immediately expelled him out of the room, stating that he must not watch such obscenities. They were far too ashamed to discuss any sex education openly with their children, so when Charles asked them how he came into this world, the answer was that he was brought by a stork. On the other hand, adults who abused him told him the truth, but not always in a way which he could understand. He said he felt that he was selling his body for truth, and that he felt ashamed and unclean. Likewise, he felt as uncertain in the relationships with women, and did things that he did not want just to please others. And this is why he was unable to refuse extra requests of work. So the next strategy that Charles recommends is learn to say no and explain to others how you feel. So the way you could tap around this is, even though I find it very hard to say no to others, I always want to please others. I'm a people pleaser. I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I find it hard to say no, I like to please others. I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I find it hard to say no, what will people think of me if I will not do it for them? I love and accept myself anyway. I'm just a people pleaser. Find it hard to say no. So difficult to say no. I can't say what I want to say. I can't do what I want to do. I'm just a people pleaser. I just can't say no. I'm not assertive enough. Eventually, it was his depression that said no for him. Charles was so ill that he could not work for some 3 years. His body gave up and did not want to do what it was asked, and this way arrange some healing time. Charles felt often guilty that he was useless and not able to take care of his family and provide for his wife and children financially. He constantly blamed himself for everything, but then began to understand that he can become interested in other things for which he previously did not have time. His children got on better with him because he played more with them, read to them, and took them on trips. And he resolved he wanted to help others who were experiencing similar situations as he used to. And therefore, he now participates in patrol at Beachy Head, trying to distract people from committing suicide. He learned that something bad might lead to something good. So do not blame yourself for things that turned out badly. Often these are matters that you could not influence for better. Try to find something positive in a negative situation like Charles did. So the way you could tap is just on this blame. I just blame myself. It's all my fault. I'm such a loser. I can't do anything right. I can't even provide for my family financially. I'm to blame. It's all my fault. So that was another picture which I did of the lighthouse at Beachy Head. Living with a depressive is not easy, but Charles told me how he appreciated his wife's help and encouragement and how she eventually pulled him out of depression. But a lot of friends, family and even the neighbors were very nice to him at that time, and he's again very grateful because without their help he would not know how to manage it. So his 7 strategy is therefore as follows. Surround yourself with people who can help you during your difficult period. And that was actually something that I myself was learning, that all through my life I somehow attracted people, very, very needy people into my life. And I was always there helping them, supporting them. I never had time for myself. And when it came to me being ill, depressed, there was not many people who could help me. I realized, oh my God. And from then on I started to learn to let go of these people who actually don't serve me. Let go of needy people, let go of negative people, because that is not helping me, that's not helping anybody. And so, the way you could step on that is, even though I know that I attract all these negative people into my life, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I attract needy and negative people into my life, I love and accept myself anyway. And just continue tapping on that. I'm just giving examples, and because I'm running out of time for this video, I also noticed that I actually put here something here that his wife pulled him out of depression, and that actually, I'm thinking about it now, and that's actually something my mother used to say to me. Oh, I've always kept pulling your dad out of depression. I was always rescuing him. I always was pulling him out of it and everything else. But actually she wasn't pulling him out of it, or again, what she was doing, trying to do, she was just rescuing him, and she wasn't looking after her own energies. And if in my previous videos I talked about the drama triangle, where there is the victim, the perpetrator and the rescuer, and all these ones, they don't have good energies around them. They need to look after themselves. And even the rescuer who is in that triangle, they then feel, oh, I always have to do this, there's no one to help me, and they're not coming from a good place. And so yeah, when I kind of have just realized, you know, what I've written, I would not say today she helped him. What was that I said? I said that she pulled him out of it. Actually, I think she was more there helping him, you know, carry the burden, and was understanding more than pulling him out of the depression. But yeah, just a thought. So that was the last strategy, and I will just finish reading these strategies. Meanwhile, we admired a beautiful sunset, so I've done a picture of a sunset. And Charles told me that tomorrow would be a new day. When he started to pull out of depression, some days were still very bad, so he always thought that he should be looking forward to a better day the following morning. He hung his motto, "Tomorrow will be better," on the living room wall, and those words helped him to become increasingly positive at times when it looked that everything was just going downhill again. So Charles remained on patrol until late that evening, and before we parted he told me that the above strategies worked for him, and as each of us is a completely different experience, all of his kind of strategies may not necessarily be suitable for everyone. Charles had many other interesting comments, but I shared them in another article, which I'll share with you another time. At the end, I would like to return to the question which I asked myself in the course of writing this article. I think that depression is not an illness as such, but it contributes to many health problems that people and doctors cannot explain, as they did not appear on any tests. We constantly learn more about how our mind and physical body are interlinked and how they interact. Doctors still do not know exactly how drugs heal depression. In research studies, both people who take antidepressants and those who only take placebo get better. In any case, it is necessary to consult a psychiatrist and never stop taking medication at once. I personally rather think, or perhaps I rather thought at that time, 15 years ago when I wrote this article, because I would be looking at it again a bit differently today, but then I thought that it was a series of bad habits that can be gradually overcome. It's also a warning that something in our lives is wrong and that we should pay attention to this and do something about it. It is therefore possible that depression often comes back because some internal conflict persists, but as Charles says, in time we should be able to overcome it. So yes, I'm talking about this internal conflict. You know, that internal conflict will not just go away by just one round of tapping. You know, like one round of tapping can perhaps help with a phobia when you dissociate yourself from whatever was causing the phobia. But if the issues are more complex, then things just won't happen overnight. But you will tap a little bit of this fear and anxiety, whatever is causing you to become depressed, and then it will go, but then it will come again. And as you continue tapping, you will be getting more of these positive, happy, loving responses. And you know, I will just conclude this video saying that, you know, many years ago I didn't believe I can ever get better. You know, I was just an illness which I suffered from majority of my life, and I felt very depressed, thinking, oh gosh, for the rest of my life I have to endure this. I don't really want to live with it. And I was depressed. I was very badly depressed, yes. It was a serious depression. But today I'm actually learning that I can actually heal, and I believe that, you know, I believe you with that belief, you can overcome anything. And the belief, you know, if you've got positive beliefs, and the tapping will help you clear your negative beliefs, you will be much happier, and the depression will just slowly go. It won't happen overnight, as I said, but there is hope. Remember, just step on hope as we are concluding with this video. Hope, hope, because there is hope for everyone to feel better. Even when your doctor says there is no hope, it's only because you believe it that you will be going downhill. Just believe. Don't listen to what the doctors say. They don't always know either. Just believe in the hope that you can get better, the hope that things will get better, that hope for improvement. Hope. Thank you for watching my video, and I look forward to having you during my next video. Bye for now.